My first impression of the movie is that it is unfinished on a colossal level.
The wastes of Megalopolis are at our feet. Let's try to cull this together. We're gonna have to, for ourselves, construct like what is a story and how is that communicated on film. The Catholic Film Club, Episode 1, Megalopolis. Welcome to the Catholic Film Club. My name is Michael Coy, and I'm joined by Patrick Bautista.
Correct.
We are video producers for the Center for Catholic Media at Benedictine College. And so we do a lot of the marketing videos for Benedictine.
Yes.
I've been here for about 3 years now. And Patrick, you've been here since...
I've been here for about 9 months, since beginning of this year.
That's right. That's right. And so all of the promotional films for Benedictine are produced in-house. And, you know, we thought that was going well. And so we started branching out into more different kinds of films, educational series and podcasts and short films coming up as well, and a Media Fellows program. And we just wanted to start this podcast because Benedictine College is all about building communities of faith and scholarship. And so we were noticing that there's some really great commentary in the Catholic sphere about film, but it's pretty disconnected. And so we would love to bring those voices together, filmmakers, critics as well, and the audience. And so we just want to kind of build a community of faith and scholarship around film.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I love it. I think I'm super excited for this because at Benedictine, we're all about, like we said, community, faith, and scholarship, and there's so much collaborative and community aspects to filmmaking and cinema. So I think it makes sense that a film podcast is finally being made. And I'm really excited to get started with it. We're going to have so much fun.
So that's kind of a brief overview of what we want to do with the podcast and sort of our goals with it. But first, Patrick, we saw a movie.
We did see a movie.
Megalopolis, a fable.
I don't know if you can call it a movie.
Can you call it a fable?
No.
Okay.
And we're going to unpack why it's the opposite of a fable.
This is Francis Ford Coppola's long gestating project. Like seriously, like maybe like
multi-decade.
Many decades in the making. We should talk about what the movie is about, which I'm just going to say is going to be one of the hardest tasks that we probably ever do on this podcast.
It's frustrating. We left the screening kind of wondering if we should do this podcast to begin with, let alone the episode, because how do you make a coherent podcast about an insanely incoherent film?
Yeah. So, but maybe if we just summarize the trailer, that will be good enough for people.
Yeah, sure.
So in the trailer, in the film, Megalopolis, I should say supposedly for a lot of these things, because it's really just a guess. Megalopolis is a film set in the not even near future. I believe it's set in 3000 AD.
Yeah.
And it's still in a place called New Rome, which is it's basically America, but New Rome seems to be a city within America.
Yeah,
it should be clear. This, along with a lot of other details, are not explained.
Yes.
It features, I suppose, the main character of the film, or at least the trailer, is Adam Driver playing Caesar Catalino, who is. It's never actually made clear whether he is an Elon Musk sort of entrepreneurial figure or if he is a city planner, city official. That's never made clear. But he is a man who is surrounded by a crumbling New Rome, basically. They probably shouldn't have called the city New Rome. That was probably their first mistake, considering what happened to the old Rome.
Yeah.
But, that's why the society crumbled. So he's surrounded by this crumbling society, and he wants to build a future. He wants to build a new future called Megalopolis, a future city where, something's gonna... And then
it's not really explained what.
No. Let me explain it. So the future, right,
Yeah.
Patrick?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's Megalopolis.
Yes.
There you go. Okay,
exactly.
So
that's all that you need to know.
That's kind of where the movie begins and ends. As far as explaining what Megalopolis is supposed to be.
I didn't even think about that. They never. They never
They say it a
actually
lot.
explain
They say the word a lot.
what is
Okay.
going to happen.
There's an interesting thing about this Adam Driver character.
Yes.
It's established right at the beginning of the film, and this was in the teaser for the film. If anybody remembers, he steps out onto a building, leans over the terrace of his high-rise apartment building, I suppose. Almost falls, and then he says, "Time, stop," and time does stop. He's Neo, I guess. I mean,
Basically,
it's
yeah.
It's
Matrix-esque.
it's an unfair comparison. It's a cheap comparison, but it's just sitting right there. He's Neo. So then he like makes time go again once he's like right-footed himself and he hasn't fallen off the building. So he has this ability. We later see him demolishing a building, saying "time, stop." The building stops being demolished, and then he says, "Time, go gadget time," or something like that, and the building falls.
Something incredibly
This
corny.
is now, if you're getting a little confused right now, or maybe you are intrigued. At this point, I am still intrigued in this movie, and it's the movie that I signed up for. What follows is, I would just say, one of the most excruciating movie experiences of my lifetime, which is a weird way to start a podcast.
Yeah,
like not just like one episode, but like a whole series. Like, I don't know. Like, I think we're just have to be a mulligan, Patrick, because I don't see how we can get into any kind of like philosophical discussion about anything, but because this is a movie that is completely incoherent. What was your experience like of the film? What's your first impression of this movie?
My first impression of the movie is that it is unfinished on a colossal level. Like, we can get into specifics, but as a general, on a general statement, everything is unfinished. Whether you want to reference the plot points, the storyline, the characters, the CGI, and the compositing, even everything is unfinished, and it seems like that the director is okay with that. It almost seems like it's intentional. You could argue that maybe he's intending to leave it so poorly complete that like that's the intention.
Now, as someone who like, we don't make Hollywood productions, Patrick, but we do like have to like, make things that make sense and set things up. Do you think this was intentional? Because I'm sure a lot of people will say that.
I had an interesting conversation with a friend yesterday about this movie, and he referenced postmodernism philosophy, where the intent of the art is not for it to make sense. And honestly, they would argue that if you leave the experience frustrated and mad and angry, then the artist has achieved that, because that is what they wanted you to take away. I don't know if that is what Francis Coppola is doing. I don't know what his personal philosophy is. I don't know if he's a postmodernist or anything like that. But not getting too deep in the philosophy, it's just there's nothing. I'm struggling to find a redeemable quality to this movie.
Yeah, and I bless Francis Ford Coppola. I do not think it's intentional.
Yeah.
I think it's just...
I want it to be intentional for his sake, but I don't think it is.
Yeah, I for the sake of the legacy of his legacy, of the legacy of film in general, I would like it to be intentional, but I think it's just this is a person who has forgotten how to make a movie.
Sure. Maybe we should go into
we should go into
the
specifics, because I think there might be, if there's like, because I am saying, this is my headline.
Yeah.
The director who's made possibly what a lot of people argue is the best movie ever made, certainly the best American movie ever made, has now made one of the worst. That's a lot. That's
breaking news.
It's a hyperbolic statement, but it's a hyperbolic movie.
Yes.
So it matches the tones there. And so we have to do our best. Maybe this is a good episode, because now we're going to get into like we're going to have to, for ourselves, construct like what is a story and how is that communicated on film.
Yeah.
So now that
Let's dive in. Let's do this.
The wastes of Megalopolis are at our feet. Let's try to cull this together. Okay. Here's a good place to start.
Sure.
What was the goal of the movie, do you think?
My interpretation was that it was a cautionary tale / lesson to be learned, because it's Megalopolis, a fable. Mm-hmm. And a fable, according to Webster, is should I pull it up?
Sure.
Yeah, I'll pull it up.
A fable is a thing that doesn't need to make sense, and therefore, like, any excuse can be made. Is that what the definition is?
Basically, yes.
Okay.
A fable, according to Webster's dictionary, is a short fictitious story, parentheses, especially one intended to teach a lesson and to which animals speak and act like human beings. So, as an overview, a fable is taught to be a metaphor or allegory for a lesson to be learned. Now, bringing it into Megalopolis, does Megalopolis teach a lesson? No, it does not. Does it introduce a lesson? No, it does not. Mm-hmm. Does it throw out something like a philosophy that could be debated? No, it doesn't. Do you understand anything about what the characters want? No, you do not. So the goal.
It's so funny. I'm sorry, because like in the Q&A that we saw in this advanced screening, he says like, we've got to have a great conversation about the future, and it's like, or a great debate about the future. Yep. And that's not had.
So even starting with the Q&A, you're like, okay, like the Q&A was a little unhinged, to say the least. I'll leave it at that.
I guess to set it up, we went to like an advanced screening that was done across the country, where live stream from Lincoln Center. It was like a critic, Francis Ford Coppola, and then inexplicably Spike Lee and Robert De Niro were on stage with them.
That was so unusual.
Coppola's they're not in the movie. They're not. No. They don't have anything to do with it. Coppola's credited as writer, director, producer. Spike Lee, Robert De Niro, panelist. That was funny. And of course, like Spike Lee and Robert De Niro used the occasion to scream about Trump, which is how they've chosen to live their life.
I was hoping that we would get this cool behind the scenes look, that like we paid and we went to see that Q&A because we were hoping to have something of an exclusive look into the vision of Francis Coppola. Did we get that?
Well, we did find out that he went to military school with Donald Trump, which was one of the most amazing non sequiturs of the evening. No, he basically reiterated what he wanted in the trailer. Yeah. And Francis Ford Coppola seems like kind of a fun, avuncular guy. He was talking a good movie. I was in. He was wanting to connect, like. Regardless of what Robert De Niro and Spike Lee, great artists still today, I will defend their art like to the hilt, if that's a phrase. Francis Ford Coppola once, he was like, to his credit, was just like, we had, people that were voting the other way in this movie. He's talking about like John Voight. Who's weirdly like playing a guy that looks like Trump but has no other like
Trump-like character.
Yeah, Trump-y-like character.
Trump-esque.
And we had people that were canceled up and down, and they wanted to make like a movie about the future. We all came together. So he's got this like goal
he's trying to make it a unifying thing. It seems like he made Megalopolis from an intent, from a concern of the future, and from a desire to bring together groups and people from all walks of life to make something that everybody could care about.
Absolutely. And I applaud that, the intent there.
Me too.
Now, I would say that if you wanted to do that, you should know what you want everyone to do.
Yeah, at least if you're going to have a debate about the future, you should tell the audience what the debate is.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It seems like he was having a debate about the future with himself as he was watching the movie, because here's the weird thing. It's like we're in the future in the movie.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard. It's kind of strange to like, okay, we're in the future and yet we're going to talk about a future after the future.
Yeah.
Like that's a strange setup, but that is like
That is the least of our
this movie's
problems here that we
so
have to
let's
unpack.
so we have to unpack it, and we're talking, that's the goal.
Yeah.
The goal is to create a unifying film that creates a vision for the future. Let's say, before we even say like what our assessment of how it was done, what was the method of doing this in the movie? Let's go through like the story.
Narrative, basically.
The narrative.
Yeah. So he gave us this character named Caesar Catalina.
Yeah.
Yeah. Caesar Catalina is this architect who
Maybe.
we don't we don't actually know what he is.
Who can stop time, which is never
He
explained.
can stop time. We have this protagonist who cares about the future and wants to make this new city as like a safe haven or a Garden of Eden, if you will, for a crumbling city. And he's faced with all these odds. He has these conflicts of interest with the mayor, played by Giancarlo Esposito, and with
John Voight's character.
John Voight's. I guess you could say they were like the royal families, although their place in society and government is never explained, which, you know, you're going to be hearing that a lot. It's never explained.
And we were paying attention. I was offered a drink by the ticket taker.
You denied it.
Was like,
you
I was like,
rejected it.
no drink. I really probably should have been drunk. I would have had a better time.
Yeah.
I might have understood it more. But yeah, okay. So that's not explained. That's the way he goes about it.
Yep.
There are also these ancillary characters, the romantic characters in Caesar's life. Julia, who is the daughter of Mayor Cicero, played by Gus Fring from Breaking Bad.
Yep.
And she is interested in him. Her cousin, I think we discover that Shia LaBeouf, who is playing Claudio, is her cousin. And he seems kind of like a rabble-rouser, anarchic type.
Like Joker type character.
Perfect casting for Shia LaBeouf.
Oh yeah, he was great.
And I thought he acquitted himself pretty well. And we can get to that later. And then sort of the wild card of this whole thing is Aubrey Plaza's character. Who does not have a very Greek or Roman name. Her name is, remind me?
Her name is Wow Platinum.
Wow Platinum.
You heard that correctly.
And she's playing like kind of a gossip columnist reporter who seems to like be the only reporter in the city.
That's true.
Because there actually seems to be only one newspaper in the city, which is if it was executed better, would have been an interesting idea. But she is this femme fatale. I would say she is the character who I would relate most to like a Greek comedy, like Lysistrata or something like that, where she is very bawdy. She has her machinations. She has her goals. Her goals
schemes,
are basically, she has her schemes. Because you don't know what is valuable in this world, it's kind of vague as to why she's acting this way. But power. It's the random thing. Power, whatever. That's good enough. So now, a lot of this we've kind of had to cull together in our minds, right? Like after watching the movie, we had to
rack our brains to try and remember what we watched and what type of merit we can extrapolate from this.
Because let's get into the way the movie is told. It is told. There was an interesting thing in the Q&A. This was instructive, where Francis Ford Coppola said that he's been rewriting this movie for like 30 years.
Yes.
He says that is his talent, basically, is to rewrite. Or he has the will to keep going.
Yeah.
And I would say that is a virtue. That is really cool.
I identified with that personally because he said a lot of directors can just write a screenplay and like just go out and make it and that's it. But for him, he's like, I need to refine it. And I recognized a bit of how my own creative process is with that too, where I have an idea, I put it on paper, and then I need to refine it over and over. And what you're probably getting at is that there comes a point where the refining can become too much and you lose the entire idea and the entire film.
I would say I would be Robert De Niro said in the Q&A, I want to go back and like look at that script that you showed me like 20 years ago and see what that was like and see if they're similar. I think, a lot of people are pointing out, and a lot of people will point out that the movie is in another draft somewhere. it is lost.
Very
It's
much.
almost like we're watching the end of like season 5 of Megalopolis, where we're supposed to just already know the relationships between these characters. We're already supposed to assume who these people are, why they're acting the way they are. There is never, to your point, it's like we have this book here, Save the Cat, which is, it's like a
Superb
very
book.
basic screenwriting book,
Yeah.
but there is a principle in there where it's just like, let's establish something about our main character to get us on their side, or
Something
to
primal as
establish what they want and
Yeah.
why.
Basic.
This for Caesar, Adam Driver's character, never happens.
Yep.
It seems to be lost in another draft. Basically, it's an incredibly fragmented movie narratively, and
With what I might add, the most of the movie is plot points and half-written characters that are all jammed together with no structure whatsoever. There is an entire plot point that references Caesar's first wife who mysteriously died and his potential involvement with that death / murder, also involving the mayor, and none of that is ever explained. It's brought up, and then it's taken
resolved.
away.
It's resolved without being set up.
Yes, and we're still left confused, not knowing what's going on.
Yeah,
It's as if most of the movie introduces a thematic element, and then as soon as you learn about it, takes it away, never to be brought up again.
yeah.
Like Julia, played by Natalie Emanuel, who I wish I could put it politely, but it was not a good performance.
No, and she's out to see like all the other actors. It's an unfair thing. I've never seen her in anything else.
The actors were put at a disadvantage by going into the movie itself.
Yeah. The script did not serve them.
But there's like a 10-minute section where she goes on this investigative route, and she's, doing a bit of documentation while she's following Adam Driver's character. It's like, what's he about? Like, what's he going to do? And that's just left.
yeah.
We hear about for 10 minutes, and then it's removed, never to be brought up again.
Yeah, including like a voiceover of a diary entry where it's like, "Dear diary, I'm looking into this. Investigation. This diary motif never returns."
Along with the fact that there's inexplicably a Chinese satellite circling the Earth and then comes and just like wrecks itself on New Rome, never to be brought up again.
That's right. I thought that was the end of the movie.
I totally forgot about that.
I thought that was going to be the ending.
It almost turned halfway through the movie almost turns into like a Don't Look Up thing.
Yeah.
Like
Don't Look Up?
You ever Adam McKay's Don't Look
I
Up
saw
at the
it, I saw it.
meteor.
Yeah.
It like crashes down. And there's no explanation as to why this Chinese satellite is floating and why it's crashing to Earth. And if they have apparently they have the technology to build a futuristic utopia city with this like energy flowing element called Megalon, but they have no technology or capability to stop a satellite crashing to the Earth.
Well, if only they listened to Adam Driver. If
Yes.
they'd I guess that's the goal. Like, I should say that like there's no conflict to this movie.
Correct.
Because the main character is not. It's a very, I would say, hagiographic view of its protagonist. It is a person who the director identifies with, and is willing to overlook all of his faults, and wants his dreams to come true, and at the end they do.
Yes, that's
with really, if there's pushback, it's like in the most random way possible, and it almost resolves itself without his involvement. Like he doesn't even have to fight. All the fighting has nothing to do with him.
Yeah, it's quite curious that he's Adam Driver's character is given this Messiah blanket where nothing bad can happen to him, to the point where, can I spoil an element to this?
If that's
I'm going to
possible.
spoil an element to this because we can't really spoil a movie like this. There's a moment where Adam Driver gets shot in the face.
Yeah.
And through this mysterious Megalon material, they reconstruct him and basically resurrect him. Although they say like he survives a bullet straight to the head.
Yeah.
And then he's okay in like 15 minutes.
Yes.
But everyone else can die. He can't.
Yeah.
Because he's the main character.
That's true. Okay, so I feel like we have to like take a breath here, and because we're dunking on this movie.
We are.
We are not Francis Ford Coppola. We are, we make our own, like, we're filmmakers, we're doing our best. And we're always trying to get better. And that's kind of like why we wanted to do this podcast in the first place, is to engage with art. And so this is not the way I wanted to start, where I'm like dunking on who has probably like been the greatest director.
I feel like it could be a little hypocritical because,
to me, like my experience in the theater, I felt like physically assaulted by the movie.
Yeah.
But part of it was because it's not like when I saw Cats, like Tom Hooper's Cats, where I'm just like, this movie is failing is inventing new ways to fail. And I'm loving every minute of it. Because I don't like Tom Hooper as a director. I don't respect him.
Did he do King's Speech?
He did do King's Speech. That's his best movie. Yeah. That's a very good movie. And he's a good director of actors. But that's beside the point. Cats is a better movie than this. This is a movie that asks me to recontextualize all of the bad train wrecks that I've seen. And I see a lot. I seek them out. I want I don't know how to prove my bona fides as someone who watches terrible things on purpose, but just trust me, I guess.
It speaks to your thought process though, that you seek out like what good can be found from failure. And you mentioned that you were going into this movie thinking it was going to be a beneficial failure. Was that?
I wanted it to be an interesting failure, or a like an admirable failure. Yeah. That's what I was expecting, based on the reviews and the fact that this had a lot of trouble getting picked up for distribution. I think now that all of these things were people honestly being like very heartfelt and being like, Francis, we can't let you do this to yourself. Yeah. I feel bad for Francis Ford Coppola, for anyone who watches this movie, for your generation, who you have seen half of The Godfathers at this point.
Sorry, Dad. Look, my dad would be. My dad is really upset right now because he loves The Godfather.
Yes, who doesn't? It's a great movie. So, Sophie, who was with us, who's like your age as well. So, I felt bad. Yeah. That was part of it. So. Maybe we should address some of the performances too. Sure. I feel like the performances are the least offenders of this. I think, if you had to pick a favorite, Patrick, performance in this movie, who would you choose?
I would say the absolutely unhinged Aubrey Plaza was hilarious.
Yeah. So, okay. I'm hesitant to say whether she should be, fired from Hollywood, like banned from Hollywood for this performance, or given Best Supporting Actor. Like I don't know what the answer is, because now she is the most like debaucherous character in the entire film. I mean, all of her scenes like prohibit us from even like recommending this to a practicing Catholic. But honestly, I wouldn't recommend this to a hedonist communist. Fair. I would not recommend this to anybody on that point. But she's a riot. Yeah. But.
Adam Driver's great too.
Adam Driver, he survives. He survives because these are actors that are surviving. They're not thriving. But
because he's the caliber of actor that he is, he gets through the movie. But at no point do you get the impression that he himself, as an actor, understands what's going on in the scenes. You're like, oh, he's having a freak out moment, or he's like crying. But you and him are both in the dark, because like, you don't know what the subtext is behind the emotion. Yeah,
it seems like the actors who kind of saved face, which was Adam Driver, Aubrey Plaza, and I would say Shia LaBeouf he seemed to be, the thing is, they seem to be lacking any direction from Francis Ford Coppola on this point. And so they had to invent what their character is, and these seem to be actors who can kind of invent a world for them to occupy, and they're in completely different movies, but they seem to have an inner life to some degree, even though, like, like I said, it's completely inconsistent, but it's a riot when they're in a scene together. But actors like who are like true thespians, like I would say Jon Voight, Lawrence Fishburne, the actor Giancarlo Esposito. Yep. These are actors who you can kind of tell, oh right, these are like actors who really cut their teeth in the theater, and so therefore they thrive off of character motivation and story and scene partners and their fellow actors understanding what is going on.
Yes.
They are dead inside, or they're just bad,
Or they're dormant.
or they're dormant. Like Lawrence Fishburne is just, I feel so bad for him, is just like wandering sleepy-eyed through scenes because he needs to thrive off of actors. He's a great actor, but he needs, like, you need to give someone something to do or to hope for within their scene. And you can tell that nothing like that was done here. I felt so bad for him. And then I think his narration throughout the movie was added later to, along with those intertitles along with the title A Fable, I think, just to save face and just be like, okay, this thing makes no sense. Can we try to make it make sense or recontextualize it? But yeah, the performances are out to see. I think.
I want to hear what you think about the cinematography.
You have a huge budget, $100 million, and almost no dollars are on screen. It was very similar to like Matrix Resurrections, also a better movie than this, that was incredibly expensive and none of the money is on screen.
It was very contradictory because you had a cinematographer who is very renowned and respected in its own ways and has made great films and beautifully looking films, such as The Master. Yeah.
The Master, beautiful movie. I'm now starting to suspect, like, I wonder if Paul Thomas Anderson shot that movie because it looks so amazing.
But you have the makings, you have the budget, you have the creative team to make a beautifully looking film, but you end up with a movie that looks like it was shot on a scrappy budget from people who don't know how to make movies and who have no creative vision. And it's a very contradictory statement because you have the team. Like, you have an expectation when you hear Francis Ford Coppola that a movie is going to at least look good and be a decent story at best.
Yeah, and I would say even looking good can be a redemptive thing for a bad movie.
Oh yeah,
I can think of plenty of movies that are just terrible, that are still like put together with some kind of panache, where it's like, okay, none of this makes sense, but it's fun to watch and let it wash over me. But this doesn't even have that going for it. It was really kind of tragic because, it's not. I'm not like a budget hawk. I just, you have a certain budget, you have an expectation of what that looks like, and I think it all comes down to whether it's $100 million or $3 million or $30. It's just attention and caring about the detail of the production. Yeah. This is a movie that takes place in 3000 AD, or at least in the future, or at least this future or a couple years removed. Everyone's like, a major plot point is driven by a USB thumb drive.
Yeah.
Shia LaBeouf is seen like doing like a reconnaissance mission, taking pictures with his Sony camera, clearly labeled Sony. There's like
a Samsung TV,
clearly labeled Samsung. Didn't even think to like scrub it out.
Yep.
Windows are blown out. Maybe that window's blown out. That's not our point. It's just like, when you have the time and the inclination, it's like, if you're going to build a world, build it well. You know?
Yeah, it's disappointing because as an audience member, we go to movies, at least I go to movies to escape, and I know a lot of other people do, and we love movies because of the ability to lose ourselves in these fantastic worlds. So when we don't get the impression, or when it's basically obvious that there's not the appropriate or enough care put into building the world out for the audience, it's frustrating.
Yeah, it is.
It's very frustrating, especially because they had the makings of it too. Like, they had the ability to do it. They just didn't.
Yeah. And I should say, I think that there's one visual experiment taken in the movie, and you can kind of see it in the trailer. In fact, the trailer is the best parts of the movie. Like, it's not just the best parts, it's the best shots. It's the only shots that look good in the movie.
Yes.
Which is sad. I'll also say, incidentally, almost 50% of this movie is dubbed. I don't know why. Could have been bad sound recording. Could have been like they were just trying to cover up a bad script. but half of the movie's dubbed. But there is this one kind of aesthetic flourish, maybe like 2/3 of the way through, this montage of Aubrey Plaza's like evil or like conniving machinations coming to the fore. That's done in like triptych. Like
Yes.
the screen is split into 3,
I was impressed by that.
and it kind of works. It's like, it's almost like you're getting a peek into like, okay, this is how Francis's mind works these days. Linear is off the table, obviously, at this point. He seems to thrive now in thinking in ways that are completely new. And I honestly wish that he had just done that or something similar to that throughout the entire film, like done a real like visual experiment. Now, at the screening we were at, there was an experiment in storytelling.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Describe what we and other audiences across America saw.
I wish maybe we can put a picture up on the screen for anyone who's watching this, but about halfway through the movie, there's kind of like a cut to black, and then the house lights go on in the movie theater, and Adam Driver appears in black and white, I think.
No, it's washed out because the
washed
house
out.
lights were on.
But he appears in the very small dimensional corner of the screen. And physically in the room, there is a person standing up at the bottom of the screen with a microphone and a notepad.
Yeah.
And he's not saying anything, but it looks like he's interacting with the screen.
Yeah, because the scene that's playing out is like a press conference that Adam Driver is talking about. So he's just like flipping his little notepad.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. He's like flipping his little notepad, and he's not actually talking.
It's this odd interactive way that we actually talked to him after the movie. We caught him and kind of asked what he was doing. And he was like, yeah, this is just something that the, director producers wanted to do for an interactive experience.
Yeah, and it's not like I would have been like, oh, that's why the movie's bad.
No,
an experiment is fun. I don't think theater and film really have a place together unless you're like at Disney World or something, like kind of a kitschy show like that. But I mean, it was fun, but it's an experiment that didn't work at all. But I don't know. When he tries new things, it is interesting. It's just the fact is he's actually not trying anything new in this movie, except what if I never actually told anyone what this movie was about?
Yes.
And then like simultaneously being completely incoherent and incredibly ham-fisted.
Oh yeah.
Because there is so much just like laughable, like just so on the nose, like social commentary, quote unquote. This is a very stupid movie.
Yes.
Like here's an example. Do you remember the Taylor Swift character?
I do.
Like there's a Taylor Swift knockoff who is like billed as like in the town as like, this is our like national virgin or something.
Yeah. She was based off like the Vestal virgins in ancient Rome.
Grace Vanderwall, right?
Yeah. She was on America's Got Talent.
Wish her all the best. So she plays a Taylor Swift character who's wearing this like invisible dress that Adam Driver has made for her that can also like project words on it and visualize that as best you can. And while she's doing this performance, the dress goes invisible and the words "you can see right through me" pop up on that, and she says, "You can see right through me." Now, did you get the subtle implications of that scene, Patrick?
It was subtle, but I picked up on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is so. What I got from that is that you could see right through her, not only physically, but spiritually as well.
Yeah, it was deep.
Yes.
It was deep. I was blown away when it's revealed that she's not actually a virgin and she's actually not this, perfect girl that she's pretending to be. And then you think back to 2 minutes ago when you see on her dress that it says, "You can see right through me."
That's deep, Guy Ritchie. All right. So what could have saved this movie?
I think we've talked a little bit about this before we started recording, and I was struggling to think about like a redemption aspect to this movie. Mm-hmm. What I came away with was kind of, bumped the mic there. Going back to the Save the Cat method by Blake Snyder, he talks about starting with a synopsis and kind of using that as a springboard and as an anchor for the movie, so you don't stray too far away from what the movie is about, because primal and basic motivations are the best, because the audience can understand that. You don't want it to be too complex, because then you lose the audience. But the basic synopsis is there. So you have the meat and potatoes of a decent movie, but that's about 2% of the movie, and the rest is all fluff and unnecessary distractions that have nothing to do with the struggle of our main characters. And that's very frustrating, because not only is it like unnecessary and the audience knows that it's not necessary, but you lose the audience altogether, because you're supposed to care about this struggle of the character, but then nothing happens in the movie that allows you to care further.
Yeah, and the pushback against him there is nothing about the pushback that is not just sort of incidental and petty. It's nothing that makes him question what he's doing.
Yes.
He is always a utopian messiah.
What about for you? What do you see as could have been a saving grace for this movie?
I don't know about you, but as soon as that movie ended, I thought the movie where it ended is where it should have began.
Interesting.
Because the movie ends with everyone coming together. They come together and they're like, okay, society's crumbling. Let's make Megalopolis. I don't know about you, but after seeing the trailer, I was like, isn't that what this movie was supposed to be about?
Yeah.
And let's not just take a utopian on his word, and let's not just have an obligatory conversation between there's an obligatory conversation between Caesar and Cicero about where they trade philosophy 101 Cliff's Notes about utopia. What if that's a dystopia?
Yeah.
Play that out. Let's see the real conflict of someone actually trying to make something. Maybe he succeeds. What's the actual fallout from that?
Yeah.
Considering that we live in a fallen world, which I don't know if Francis Ford Coppola believes in that, but I think he would believe in the inherent flaws of man. And that's kind of where drama has always come from. And let's see someone try to do something instead of spending 2 hours getting him to that point.
Yeah.
Let's give him that chance. I think it was a missed opportunity.
I'm realizing that most of the movie is about the talking and the planning of making Megalopolis. And then when we have about 15 minutes left in the movie, there's no visual of the construction aspect of this utopia. It just exists. It just poof, it appears. And Adam Driver is standing on the top of it and delivers this whole his philosophy on what's going on and what needs to happen. But it just it appears.
Yeah, and it looks like something from Disney World or something.
It looks like an amusement park.
Yeah, it just kind of looks like a weird resort.
Yeah.
But so that's where the movie ends. That's where I feel like it could have there could have been a saving grace there.
Yeah.
I think I think if there's a principle in this, it's when you are telling a story, I wonder if Francis just got high on his own supply and was just making a movie for himself, which a lot of, it's his right to do it.
Yeah.
But think about the audience. And if you want to take someone on a crazy journey, give them at least something to hold on to.
I'm okay if we go wacky. I'm okay if you tell a really weird, crazy story that has no linear aspects to it, because I'm a Christopher Nolan fan. Yeah, Nolan throws time and physics to the wind, and I'm all there for it.
Sometimes to his own detriment. But
yes, that's going to be just a debate on another podcast episode. But all I need, and I think maybe most audience members need, is just the basic, starting out tools to a movie. And then once we get that, we trust the director to take us on this journey, and it's going to tie back in at some point. But if we don't get that, we have nothing to hold on to the movie with.
Yeah.
If the movie is this magic carpet that we're getting moved along with and floated along through this world, we have to have the grip strength, if you will. We have to have the starting block to embark on this journey. With
Cheap
it.
shot, Patrick.
Yes. Michael has broken wrists.
My carpal tunnel wrists.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. So, I mean, I was pretty depressed walking out of the movie. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, well, we're just not going to do a podcast. We should
Yeah.
probably just never do one ever again. But
The success
has
about
actually
this
been-
the success about this movie was that we had a debate between ourselves whether
we had a great debate about the future.
we had a great debate about whether we should even air this podcast or not.
Yeah. But I think we've done our best to like
We've tried.
It's pretty foundational. We didn't really get to any spiritual elements because there are none. I
Yeah.
mean, actually, can you read his the final title card of this movie? It's probably pretty constructive to the way that Francis Ford Coppola thinks, and maybe why he doesn't have a grounding to stand on when it comes to even thinking about the future. Go ahead, Patrick.
So throughout the movie, there are these like Roman-styled title cards that kind of clue in with what's going to be happening in the next scene or like quarter act.
Or they are kind of like musings on society. Go ahead.
So at the end of the movie, we get this title card that's kind of like the new Pledge of Allegiance. And I'm going to read it out to you right now. I pledge allegiance to our human family and to all the species that we protect, one earth, indivisible, with long life, education, and justice for all. Mic drop.
Read aloud by a class of like first graders.
Which is who I think may have written it. It was like as if you a third grade teacher asked her class to rewrite the Pledge of Allegiance in their own words with kind of like something that had meaning to them personally.
Yeah. And I should say, it's like, I probably know as much about Roman society and like Greek myths or legends or drama, and as much about how to fix the country as Francis Ford Coppola, which is to say, obviously none. But at least if you're going to do something like that, take on the responsibility of like having the curiosity to find out. I don't think you always have to write what you know, but if you don't, find out, and then you know it, and then write about it. Anyway, do you think Francis is going to survive this one? Well, I guess it's going to be his last movie.
Yeah,
so
this is going to probably be his
legacy.
last movie, unless he releases like another director's cut of Megalopolis in the next 2 years. I'm not sure.
Megalopolis, not a fable.
I'm okay letting this one kind of float into the sea, and I hope that everyone else does the same, because this should not be his legacy. I think we should forget he made this movie and just remember all of the other beautiful stories that he has told in previous works.
Maybe we'll look back on it and we'll just be grateful for the memes.
The memes are going to be great from this.
Yeah,
I can
that's
promise you
all
that. I'm ready for the memes.
Aubrey Plaza's death scene.
Yes.
That's all that we can hope for.
Yes.
Well, okay. Let's now that we've sort of now that our psyches have been broken apart and we've tried to put them back together, let's take a break.
Sure.
And we can just kind of talk about what our goals are with this podcast and how people can participate. And let's do it.
Awesome.
Cool. All right. Okay, well, that was our discussion on Megalopolis. This is me and Patrick from the future, and now we both have allergies and head colds. So we're trying to get through this outro, but I think we did a pretty good job at deciphering an indecipherable film.
Yes, we did our best.
I don't think we conveyed like how excruciating, like physically painful the experience was. I guess that was the interactive portion that Coppola
It was
talking
very
about.
interactive on that level as to just try and keep it together for most of the movie.
Yeah. Because
We didn't walk out.
It feels like it's 4 hours long, but it's actually only two and change.
You were telling me that it felt longer than Killers of the Flower Moon, and Killers of the Flower Moon was about an hour and a half longer.
Yeah, I'd say so. It was, So one old master to another. I guess that's why Scorsese wasn't on that stage with Coppola. But you know what? I'm glad he tried.
Me too.
Glad he tried.
Lessons learned.
Got to take chances in this.
Hopefully lessons learned.
Industry. But if you like that discussion, then we invite you to join in on our film club discussion coming up at the end of this month, date to be determined. And we're going to be covering a lot of, frankly, pretty film bro-y kind of stuff. Like Furiosa, horror films. We're going to do a horror film episode. And so we kind of wanted to zag for our first recommendation and go for Disney's The Hunchback of Notre Dame. And have you seen this
I
movie?
haven't seen that one yet. No.
I know that because this is the 9th time
It
that
is.
we've done this outro.
You do know that. In all seriousness, no, I'm very excited to watch that movie because I'm very close to watching almost all the typical Disney movies that a person should have seen. So that's been on my list for a long time, and I'm ready to check it off.
Yeah, this one has a great villain. And if people want to revisit it, if they haven't seen it in a while, then I invite them to sort of like look at the dynamic and the sort of the thematic push-pull between the villain and the hero, between Lord Frollo and Quasimodo.
Sure.
And, I remember I took like 13 pages of notes. You might remember that, Patrick, because again, this is the 9th time we've done this outro.
It's ringing a bell.
But it's coming off, it's tripping off the tongue. It's very natural. So if you want to join in the conversation, please reach out to us on our Instagram or on our email, which is linked below. And if you want to donate to the podcast or to the Center for Catholic Media, we're doing tons of projects like this, and we can always use some support. So our giving page is linked down there below as well.
Yes.
So so far it's a film club of 2, but let's keep adding more members.
Awesome.
It is not that exclusive.
No, we try and be open-minded and free entry.
Should we do the secret club handshake?
Let's do it.
All right.
We'll see you in the next episode. Have a great one. Time stop. Okay. And now he's paralyzed. If you know anything about Michael, he'll stay like this for a good 5 minutes. Me, I don't have the patience, so we're done. We're gonna have to cut it off. So I'm gonna. Yeah, now I just look foolish. I'm getting off. Love you guys. He's still doing this. Do you see this? I don't know if you can see me. He's still doing this. He's faltering though. He's shaking a bit. All right, I'm gonna have to pause the recording, and then he'll actually have to stop. You're not going to stop. Oh.